We have some interesting news to discuss today as Milwaukee has made a sneaky move that could pay dividends going forward for the Bucks. We're going to break that down in this episode, as well as discuss Damian Lillard. He has spoke out ahead of opening night on his expectations on his performance this season, has revealed the truth on some very interesting factors that played into his down season last year. Stay tuned for all that in this episode, but before we get into it, we're less than 20 subscribers away from 1,000. The goal was to hit it before opening night. We have a few hours left, so if you're watching this video and you aren't subscribed and you're a part of the 80% or so who aren't subscribed, make sure to hit that subscribe button. It would mean the world to myself. And again, we're trying to hit before opening night, and 81% aren't subscribed. So let's dive right into it. There's a lot to go over. Specifically, it's finally here. The Bucks play tonight against the Philadelphia 76ers. A Sixers team that doesn't have Joel Embiid, that doesn't have Paul George, but they still have a couple of good players. Kelly Oubre, Tyrese Maxey, Kyle Lowry, players like that. Seems like a bit of a trap game tonight, but we have some things to discuss. Damian Lillard spoke out on a bunch of things, and he made some very interesting comments, and it has me a little bit excited for this upcoming season. But first, let's cover a move made by Milwaukee. So Wisconsin Herd traded for the rights to a former NBA top 10 pick. Now, obviously, this is a G League trade, but as I'll dive into it, you'll see how it could affect. And we have some updates on the G League front as well, specifically regarding a recent Exhibit 10 signing. You can see here, the Milwaukee Bucks G League affiliate squad, the Wisconsin Herd, have made a minor trade prior to the start of the season. According to Blake Murphy, the Herd has shipped out the number 15 selection in the G League draft, as well as the G League returning player rights to big man Wenyen Gabriel, who's played for the Lakers and played in the NBA, and Marquez Bolden and swingman Deontay Burton to the G League squad. In exchange, the Herd are adding the returning player rights to former number 10 overall draft pick Justice Winslow and guard Daryl Morcell. So there's some interesting things here, and obviously the Milwaukee Bucks signed Justice Winslow to an Exhibit 10 deal, and we didn't figure that he was going to factor into the actual lineup this season, and that is the case. He's not going to factor in the lineup, at least at the start of the year. But just an interesting move, an interesting transaction that went down, specifically surrounding Justice Winslow. And as you look into Justice Winslow, we know that, again, he signed an Exhibit 10 training camp deal a bit less than a week ago. And should the 6'6" veteran play for the Herd for at least 60 days, he'll be able to earn his bonus. So he'll probably stay down with the Herd for 60 days. And again, if you're unfamiliar with Winslow, I made a video on him about a week ago. He's 28, drafted by the Heat. He was a guy who's actually has a lot of NBA experience, has some NBA potential. He's played 241 games, averaging 9, 5, and 3. So it's intriguing, but he hasn't been healthy in a while. He's not super young. I believe he's 29 years old or 28 years old now. And I think at this point, if the Bucks need more depth, then Justice Winslow could be a guy to come up. He's like a 3. He's not a 3. He's a defensive-minded wing. Can shoot the ball a little bit, but that's definitely not his calling card whatsoever. But the Milwaukee Bucks need defense, so this is something that could definitely factor into play, assuming that he'll probably get his 60 games with the Herd, and depending on injuries and things like that. We know the Bucks are already dealing with various injuries. Chris Middleton, Brook Lopez is obviously going to play, but he's been dealing with some things throughout the offseason, so they're pretty healthy right now. The Bucks have a healthy lineup aside from Chris Middleton heading into tonight's game against the Sixers, but it never hurts adding some continued pieces to the Wisconsin Herd. Just guys depth who can help the team if needed. They have other guys, of course. Beauchamp, who's been shopped around by the Bucks. AJ Johnson, their first round pick. So there's some interesting guys, but Justin Winslow is one of the more interesting Exhibit 10 picks. So just wanted to cover that deal before we dive into right now, which is Damian Lillard. He spoke out and clap back at the critics. People know how effing good I am, is how he started his interview. And again, the Bucks play today, and this is going to be the big season for Damian Lillard and the Milwaukee Bucks, because coming off of last year, there was a ton of negativity after they got eliminated by the Indiana Pacers in the first round because of injuries to Giannis, Dame, all these things. And Damian Lillard, basically, he had a bunch of things to say. As you can see this here, he's not obsessing over it. Lillard told The Athletic that he doesn't need a title to solidify his legacy. He said, quote, "You would think if I won it, there would be nothing that they could say, but I think people know how good I am. People know, at least the people who've been watching, or I wouldn't have been on the 75th anniversary team." If you're talking about fans and people that are on TV just randomly say their opinion, it's like, all right, why have I been in the West all this time and just constantly winning on a team I'm not playing with a bunch of stars? Basically, he really goes all in here, specifically talking about the critics, fans, analysts saying that, Damian Lillard's washed, he's injury prone, he can't carry a team, all of these different things. You can see this here. "I'm doing it, and now I'm a 3 seed. How's my career average? 25 points a game. How many people got more 60-point games than me? How many got more 50-point games than me? So I don't think it's a matter of how good I am. People know how good I am." And it's pretty rare you see a player like this just come out and directly call out the media. And obviously, as the media, he's calling out because, well, specifically fans, I guess, and the media. Because he does say that, the players or the people who get to vote on the 75th anniversary team, Dame was obviously named to that. And especially coming off of a season last year where he was, quite frankly, it didn't blend well. It wasn't bad by any means, but he definitely wasn't what the Bucks and what we expected from him when we made that blockbuster trade to acquire him last offseason. But at the same time, I think there's still room for him to grow, especially in the sense of with Giannis Antetokounmpo, with all these other guys. Now Gary Trent Jr., who's already played with in the past, Bobby Portis, Taurean Prince, and they have a very solid rotation. And we figure that the starting lineup tonight hasn't been announced yet. It will be something along the lines of Gary Trent or Damian Lillard, Gary Trent Jr., Taurean Prince, Giannis, and Brook Lopez, and then Bobby Portis is the sixth man off the bench. And it's going to be interesting to see how it factors in with DeLon Wright, who was obviously another one of their bigger acquisitions. They didn't make any huge splashes aside from if you consider Gary Trent Jr., but he continues to say some other things. He said, last year I had what you call a down season, but I was averaging 25 points and 7 assists. I averaged 30 points in the first round. Given everything, if that's what people are saying that I'm forgotten about, I think it just shows the standards I'm held to. And it's a good point. Now, I do think that ultimately he is held to very high standards, but for good reason at the same time. I mean, he's a guy who's been an MVP caliber player his entire career. He gets traded to a team that now is actually expected to win and compete for a title, whereas before with the Blazers, they weren't really expected as much to compete for a championship rather than just, get into the playoffs and battle there. But now that he's actually expected to battle for a chip, and if they don't get that, it's a disappointment. People are going to come out and call you out if you had a down year. And I still think, I've been on the record saying, I think Dame had a fine year last year. It wasn't great. Defense was the biggest struggle, but that wasn't Dame's fault. They knew that coming in. You look at the lineup now, even now after the offseason, they still had some very interesting, they still have a very lackluster defensive group here. They obviously have Giannis as a solid defender, very good defender. Brook Lopez, a solid big man, like paint defender, gets a lot of blocks, obviously. But then you have guys like Dame, Gary Trent Jr., Middleton, all subpar defenders. I mean, Gary Trent Jr. can maybe be a plus defender if he... Now, maybe in his new role, we didn't see it much with the Toronto Raptors. And, of course, Taurean Prince, he's a solid defender. So they added a couple guys that are their hoping is going to be able to take down teams like the Boston Celtics, who looked unbelievable. And a lot of Bucks fans and a lot of fans out there and teams are scared. They tied the Milwaukee Bucks three-point record. They had a lot of chances to beat it yesterday. They ultimately didn't beat that record from 2020. I believe the Bucks got that in a huge win. But now we're looking at it from the sense of if the Bucks want to take down teams like the Boston Celtics, teams like the healthy Sixers, obviously they play the Sixers tonight, they're going to need to be fully healthy, and they're really, quite frankly, going to need Damian Lillard to play like an MVP caliber player. Because if you have two MVP caliber players in Dame and Giannis, then you can work on that, and the defense will be a bit less of an issue. But if you have a down season from Dame again, it's going to be hard to overcome a lot of the defensive struggles that they're going to see, especially now against teams like the Boston Celtics, who look very, very scary, especially with Jrue Holiday, who the Bucks obviously gave away in that deal. So let me know in the comments your thoughts are on this. Obviously, the Bucks it's finally here opening night for the Milwaukee Bucks. Hopefully, they can take down the Sixers. It seems like a bit of a trap game. I'm going to predict the Bucks obviously win, but I could see a world where Maxey and Oubre take off. So hopefully, the Bucks can sustain whatever run they have, because we need to get this first win of the season. But let me know in the comments if you're excited for the NBA season to start, and we'll see you soon.